What's up, Myth Guardian? Sleep Daniel here. We've got an interesting batch of Rings of Immortality cards. I'll give my star ratings at the end. If you don't have time to hear all my thoughts on each individual card, let's go. First up is Vampire Historian, a 3-mana, 2-red gem uncommon vampire with life tap and awaken. Add an amnesia spell to your hand with 2 attack and 3 health. And if you don't remember, amnesia is a 2-mana red spell which suppresses an enemy minion and locks its strength to 0. This card is very hard to assess, honestly. It has 2-drop stats at 2/3, but costs 3 mana with the bonus of giving you another card. Amnesia currently doesn't see play, which doesn't bode well for this card. However, being attached to a body could be enough to make it worthwhile. This card is very reminiscent of Firesong Prodigy, which does the same thing for Ignition, but cheaper. Unfortunately, unlike Ignition, Amnesia doesn't necessarily help the game plan of pushing for fast damage. I would say if you're playing Vampire support and or Necromantic decks bother you, then run this card. Moving on, Gloombringer is a 3-mana, 2 purple gems uncommon with 3 energy, and once per turn you can spend 1 energy to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose a spirit card to draw, reduce its mana cost by 1, and shuffle the rest of the cards back into your deck. And this artifact is sacrificed when it has 0 energy and it has 10 durability. This card is niche and will obviously only see play in a spirit deck. However, I think just about every spirit deck will run 3 copies of it. Note that it says spirit card and not just spirit minion. So you can also pull non-minions like Pressure to Perform or 5 Spirit Gate. If we compare this to Brainstorm, for 3 mana you're getting 3 cards instead of 2, with their mana cost reduced by 1 each and spaced out over 3 turns. Another way to think about this is a 0 mana card that draws 3 without the discount. It's delayed, so some might say it's too slow, but I think it's plenty good enough. It can even let you get combo pieces discounted so you can play them a turn early. Alright, Caravan Brass. I love this card. It's 5 mana, 2 orange gems, mythic, armor 2, friendly minions with Forged have armor 2, and Forge, when you play a card with Forged, draw a card. And Forged just means you've burnt at least 1 copy of it and it has a Forge effect. So its Forge effect has been activated. First of all, can we just appreciate the art on this card? It's so good. I mean, most Mythgard cards have good art, but this is like a giant holy robot with a big shield of light. He's like a paladin and a mech, and he's defending a supply line which kind of ties in with his effect. It's very flavorful, very Parsa, very Mythgard. Beautiful card. Okay, let's move on to actually assessing the card. 5 mana, 3/7 with armor 2. Even without the rest, that's a good stat line. Compare this to Volkov Heavy, a borderline competitive 5-drop with the same amount of stats but only armor 1. Even if that were all this card has, it would still be playable, I think, as a big tank. But it has 2 more effects, which are dependent largely on how many Forge cards there are. I've heard that Orange and Red are getting more Forge cards than other factions, but I can't confirm that. The Armor 2 synergy with other Forge minions is nice, and could help build a solid wall of Forge minions. Imagine, for example, combining this with Coruscant Axolotl. The last effect is much harder to pull off, since forging a mythic is generally difficult. But if you do manage to open with this card, burn it, and draw it again, it'll be able to serve as a draw engine with its own defense mechanism. That's pretty overpowered, I think, especially since Parry at the Gates was nerfed recently and Orange could use more draw to restore it to its former glory. Alright, Miasma Catalyst. 6 mana, 2 yellow gems. Minions in the opposing 3 lanes have Blight 1. When an enemy minion with Blight dies, minions adjacent to it gets get Blight. 4 attack, 6 health. So this card's very similar to Herald of Pestilence, which is not played competitively, but is borderline competitive. On the surface, Miasma Catalyst has worse stats, 1 less health and no armor. I think Miasma Catalyst might find broader appeal, though, because it only requires yellow gems, and would therefore be an option for many more control decks. It also has the added benefit of spreading Blight when a blighted minion dies. If I understand the effect correctly, the Blight that's spread lasts even after Miasma Catalyst dies, but the Blight caused by its first effect is tied to Miasma Catalyst itself and will go away when it dies. It might be quite useful to play on turn 6 following a turn 5 Misanthropia so that those infected stragglers will then spread the infection to others. Alright, Terraforma is a 4-mana blue spell costing 2 blue gems with the effect create a 4/7 Loam Backer with Immobile in an unoccupied enchantment. Forge, instead of the Loam Backer having Immobile, it has Overrun. So it's kind of odd that this is a spell instead of just a 4/7 minion. I suspect there are spell synergies in this expansion that have yet to be revealed that might make that difference important. At any rate, 4/7 is nothing to sneeze at for 4 mana, power creeping Feathered Serpent by 1 attack, and the Forge effect should be pretty easy to pull off, given that it's a common. However, the fact that it has to be played on an enchantment seems limiting to me. Compare this to Tailroot Worm, which has the exact same gem and mana cost, and 1 more stat when played on an enchantment, but can also be played off enchantment as a 4/4. Unless spell support comes out that makes this better, I think Terraforma is okay, but worse than tools we already have. Alright. XIOMARA EARTHSHAPER. Obviously the same character that was depicted in Terraforma is a mythic. She's a 6 mana, 2 yellow gem mythic minion with 5 attack and 6 health, and her effect is 3 energy and armor 2, so another armor 2 minion here. Once per turn you can activate one of these effects, gain 1 energy and give another minion armor 1, spend 2 energy and look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose an enchantment to draw and shuffle the rest back into your deck, or spend 7 energy and create 4/7 Loam Backers in all your unoccupied enchantments. Her stat line is amazing, armor 2 is amazing, her first 2 activation effects are quite good, helping you both defend your board and dig for enchantments. Probably any rainbow control deck with yellow will play this. I don't think you'll get the final effect off very often, as she has to stick on the board for 4 turns to pull it off. It's also kind of underwhelming because, again, it only makes the Loam Backers on enchantments. For 7 energy, I would want them played on every open slot, like a 7-ring ritual effect. However, even if she never uses any effect, all that armor already makes her competitive in my eyes. Alright, Guise of Phobos. A 4 mana, 2 red gem spell, common. Give a minion +3/+0, agile, and minions in the opposing 3 lanes have -2/-0. It's a buff spell with exactly the same cost as Pinnacle of Flavors, except for red. When I first saw this card, I thought it was terrible. We have much cheaper ways to make your minions agile, and the attack reduction of enemy minions will often be useless if you're just going face anyway. But this card's saving grace might be that, unlike Pinnacle of Flavors, it's common. So if you're running a deck full of little rushing minions, it'll be very easy to poke with them for around 5 damage each turn, even if your opponent has a board set up. Provided, of course, that you can draw enough to consistently see those options. You could also use this on something with Demise that your opponent might be reluctant to remove, or a Cyclopean Giant to guarantee a big push with his focus ability and minimal resistance from side attackers. Assessing this card is very difficult because it's highly dependent on whether or not red will have enough tools to make this worthwhile as a final push for damage. However, I'm confident that they will, as red is already one of the best factions for rushing, drawing, and demise effects. Alright, last card, Weapon Check. is a 4 mana green spell, uncommon, costs only 1 green gem. All minions have -3/-0 until the start of your next turn. It's quite expensive for that effect, 4 mana. Certainly most decks will not be able to run this. However, I could see a burn stall deck getting a lot of use out of this, particularly if you have something like Bald Mountain to recycle it, and Mothmara to ping your opponents every time you use it. Other spells that also decrease attack, like Detained and Pressure to Perform, could neutralize most aggression from your opponent for just long enough to slowly whittle them away. Alright, now I'll get to my star ratings. Vampire Historian is a 3-star card. Gloombringer is a 4-star card. Caravan Brass is a 5-star card. Miasma Catalyst is a 5-star card. Terraforma is a 2-star card. XIOMARA Earthshaper is a 4-star card. Guise of Phobos is a 4-star card. And Weapon Check is a 3-star card. Alright, a lot of big health minions and a lot of armor in this one. Let me know if you agree with my assessments down in the comments, and thanks for watching.